A year ago, Arsenal announced the signing of Jorginho, another Chelsea player making the trip from Stamford Bridge to the Emirates. Now, we've seen a lot of that over the last nearly 20 years, all the way back in 2006 when Arsenal signed William Gallas. I'm going to rank those signings, look back on them and see how they've done at Arsenal. I'm going to be honest, this is a bit of fun because I don't look at this list too fondly. I'm being totally honest, and there's maybe a lesson to learn at the end of this all. But the reason I also want to talk about this is because I think Jorginho in 12 months at Arsenal, if you just remove that error in the North London derby, and yes, it was a big error, I actually think he's done well. I'm actually going to give him some credit. I actually think he's done pretty well, and it's interesting to see where he ranks in this list. Let me just remind you of all the players. From William Gallas in 2006, Asana Diarra a year later, 4 years on, Yossi Benayoun joined on loan, Petr Cech in 2015 to David Luiz in 2019, Willian then joined the year after David Luiz, Jorginho and Kai Havertz came in the last 12 months. Those last three signings have all been Mikel Arteta signings, so he has personally enjoyed, well, signing in the Chelsea market. Let's start by taking my 7th place player, and it's of course Willian. Willian is the free transfer in this list, so really there was kind of like the least invested in this, so it kind of, you should almost look at it in terms of a pure signing, like investment on a player, you know, the least kind of went on him to a degree, but he performed so badly. Like with most of these other players, I can talk about moments they had or a prolonged period at the club or whatever. Willian had 1 year at Arsenal and he was a disaster. A great debut against Fulham where he won 3-0. And funny enough, he's playing his best football. It's like he played his best football at Craven Cottage in an Arsenal shirt. And then Fulham went, well, he played well here, we may as well sign him. And guess what? It's actually working for them. He's doing well there. I'm happy for him to do. Listen, I don't care. But good on him. You're right, he's gone on and done pretty well at Fulham, but it just didn't work at Arsenal. Free transfer or not, the worst signing we've made from Chelsea, in my opinion, in terms of pure performances we got out of him. But then you move up the list, it doesn't get much better, but it does get better. William Gallas is 6th for me in that list. Now, some people might say that's unfair because he played for 4 years, scored the odd big goal, was the captain. But I think that's the big thing. He was the captain, and we all remember the moment at Birmingham where he needed to be a leader and he didn't step up. And I think that was a big thing. For his pure performances in an Arsenal shirt, there were probably moments, but generally, no, he didn't do it. But I think the really big thing amongst all this is he was, when we're talking about evaluating the transfer from Chelsea, he was part of a deal that brought him to the Emirates, but also saw Ashley Cole go the other way to Stamford Bridge. We lost an invincible, we lost arguably the best left back the Premier League's ever seen. It wasn't a great transfer for Arsenal. In 5th, I go for Lassana Diarra. If my memory serves me right, Arsene Wenger had Fabregas and Flamini in that midfield. I was very young watching Gallas and Diarra, so please remind me if I'm getting this wrong or if I'm misremembering some things. But from what I remember, Diarra looked good in an Arsenal shirt. But again, we only got a year out of him. He came for about between 5 to 7 million or so, and he did okay. Like, I remember him looking quite good. He then ended up going to Portsmouth and doing well, and then ends up playing at Real Madrid. So clearly a very talented player. But again, at Arsenal, you know, not a bad player, but couldn't really break into our team from what I remember. So do you consider it a success? Not really. Then we move into 4th, and it's Petr Cech. Now, what did we get? 2-3 years out of Petr Cech? He was past it when he came to Arsenal. That's not to say he didn't have some big moments. And I remember his big save in the what was it? I think a game against Liverpool from a Coutinho strike. You know, that kind of reminded you he had some quality. But he started in the Europa League final against Chelsea. He played against them in the final in Baku. And then 4 months later, he was working for Chelsea again. Yeah. We signed him for 10 million. And I remember all the quotes. John Terry and others were saying, this is a goalkeeper that saves you 10 points. Yeah, football doesn't work like that. Petr Cech didn't come and have the impact I hoped he would. Was he terrible for us? No. But he wasn't really an upgrade on some of the other goalkeepers we had, like Szczesny, even Ospina and other keepers around then. I wasn't blown away at all. Into 3rd, Yossi Benayoun. Yes, Benayoun makes the top 3 for 2 reasons. Firstly, he was a loan deal. Secondly, he came up he came out in some big games for us. I'm just trying to remember things like, the Tottenham game. I think he played in that derby. I think there was another game. There were just some big games at home. I remember Benayoun starting and playing quite well in. He did a job out on the left-hand side. He played a few minutes. He felt like an Arsenal player. And look, on loan for a year, he was okay. I can't really complain. He was fine. He did his job for a year and moved on. I'm not sure where he played after that. Was he sensational? No. Did he need to be? No, Arsenal were a bit of a mess that year. Look, in a team that had Andre Santos and other players, he was the least of my worries, and fair play, he did a job. So we're going to the top two now, and it's between David Luiz and Jorginho. Now, I can almost hear some of you Arsenal fans screaming through the screen right now going, really, James? Like, why have you even made this list? Because there's a lesson at the end of it, but we'll come to that. Let's actually try and be fair on Jorginho and David Luiz. I think both of them probably have an average in terms of what they've given to Arsenal of around here, right? Like an average. I think Jorginho's always played to like that kind of level, whereas David Luiz sometimes was up here and very often was down here. And so I kind of level it out to here. Now, what I mean by that is he has some calamitous moments. City away, few red cards, the odd penalty, whatever it was, scored some goals for us. But I won't forget that he was big at Wembley in a semi-final and a final against Man City and Chelsea, his former club, by the way, and stepped up and actually was like, he was good for us in those games. He was a part of winning silverware. And whether you love him or not, you can't deny that he had big performances and big moments in those very games. Of all the players who signed from Chelsea, I actually think he came and gave it a real go, to be fair. And I kind of respect that. And he has played a moment in significant history of our club. Jorginho, what I'd say is he came for about double the price. I think David Luiz is 6 million, Jorginho is 12 million. I think I have Jorginho as someone who came in and his job was to be a backup number 6. And he's more than done that. When Partey wasn't at it, he came in, he was really good at St James's Park. When he's been absent through injury, Jorginho's come in and done a job. Literally one error against Tottenham, and that is kind of the only thing you can use against Jorginho. Otherwise, he's been pretty brilliant. Honestly, I think he's been fine. In Arteta's structure and Arteta's team, I think he's looked good. But I think I'm going to give Jorginho the edge as number 1 and David Luiz as number 2. And the reason I have it that way around is Jorginho is closer to what that signing was meant to be. A backup who did a job in the squad and brings some experience at times, and he has done that. Starting against City, for example, at the Emirates, did that. Played well, we won that game. Like, he has been closer to what Arteta's needed him to be than David Luiz has been in terms of what we needed our centre-back to be. But I acknowledge that David Luiz had his moments in Arsenal's history. So you're probably wondering, okay, James, you've gone through your 7 there. You can see it here on screen. What about Kai Havertz? You might think I'm bottling it, and I am. I'm totally bottling it. My thing about Kai Havertz is we signed him for 65 million. He's one of, if not the highest paid player at the club. And that is going to come with immense expectation. But I do feel it's too early. If I'm talking positives, I'm saying he scored some goals. I'm saying he came on against Man City and had an impact in a game we won. I'm saying he scored against Brentford to win us a game. And has probably had sort of moments like that. Probably that, outweigh a lot of the moments a lot of these players on this list have. But at 65 million, when the resources went there and it could have gone elsewhere, on building on a title challenging team to go and win the league and finally go over the line against Man City, suddenly, forget the player and his contributions as a signing and package, he could be one of the worst on that list. And so with Kai Havertz, it kind of hangs in the balance. I'd love to know where you rank him. It's too early for me to judge. And while he's still here and, expected to play a big part, I don't think it'd be right for me to kind of cast a position for him on this list yet. But if you've decided, let me know in the comments below. What have we learnt? Stop signing players from Chelsea. And the reason I say that is because A, they're always going to feel more Chelsea than Arsenal. That is just the reality. They're always going to feel a Chelsea man. I don't think of anyone on that list. I mean, apart from Benayoun, who wasn't at Chelsea very long. Petr, Cech, like I said, playing a final and then going and working for Chelsea 3 months later, having played against them it just doesn't sit right with us, does it? I also think you've got to wonder why Chelsea are selling these players. They're not selling these players if they're happy to keep them. And I think we have to learn from that, because none of these players have been stellar. None of these players have been excellent. None of these players have been brilliant to the point where you go, we got ourselves a great deal there, and Chelsea got this wrong. They've come in and you've gone, okay, yeah, where there maybe have been some positives with some. Ultimately, you can understand why Chelsea weren't too bothered to let some of them go. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, I just think Arsenal fans are always going to struggle to make that real connection with Chelsea players at times. And that's not to say they're not giving their all. I believe Jorginho, Havertz, I believe they're all trying. I believe some of the other players on this list certainly have as well. There's no reason really why a Chelsea player can't come to Arsenal and perform. I just don't think I think we've seen plenty of evidence that doesn't really go in an amazingly positive direction. And this is one thing I think Arsenal should learn from all this. Stop buying from Chelsea. It takes longer for the fans to really warm to that player, in my opinion. Like I said, if they're selling them, you kind of got to wonder why. I'm not saying we haven't done some decent business there at times. I think Jorginho really has been the best of the lot, and fair play's come in and done a job, but I'm not sure we should be doing more of those deals. But like I said, let me know in the comment section below who you're ranking and where you think Kai Havertz will be on this list in maybe a couple years time. And should we be buying from Chelsea ever again? I say no. And I just want to say a really big thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, actually hit the links right here to watch more content like this, including my Football First podcast, which drops every Monday to Friday at 6 AM. And I know it's annoying, I am really sorry to have to ask, but if you want to show support to the channel, hitting the like and subscribe buttons help promote the content much more than you could possibly know. Thanks again.